Good morning, my name is Rick James, and today I'm going to talk to you about some of the disadvantages of outsourcing. Now, as my colleague just got done telling you, there are numerous advantages to outsource, but there are also several disadvantages that you need to think about. Some of the disadvantages I'm going to talk about today are the economic disadvantages, performance problems that may come with outsourcing, loss of control, security risks, and also the effect it could possibly have on the next generation. So let's start with the economic disadvantages. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the current unemployment rate is around 7.9%. It's been about that rate since late 2012. Now, with the current population, that's approximately 12.3 million Americans out of work. Okay, in comparison, according to statisticbrain.com, the number of jobs outsourced in 2011 was nearly 2,200,000. So stopping outsourcing altogether wouldn't decrease our unemployment rate by a tremendous amount, but it would put a lot of Americans back to work. Another problem that a lot of Americans are having is that companies are, instead of increasing wages for cost of living, they just outsource the jobs to lower charging countries. This is causing a lot of Americans, again, to be without work, and the ones that can find work often have to take a lower paying job or two or three just to support their families. The next problem you may encounter when outsourcing are performance problems. Now, when you're outsourcing with vendors, that's the person you actually outsource with. They do the work for you. These vendors more than likely are doing the work for more than one company at a time. Now, that's going to lead to a lack of focus to one company's particular needs and can also have a detrimental effect on the quality of work that they're doing. If they're worried about two or three different companies at a time, they're not as focused on one company as one worker would be that's coming in day to day to do that job. This also can increase deadlines if you're working on a project, and finally can increase the cost of that project. The next thing we're going to talk about is loss of control. Now, vendors don't work for you. They work for you, but they don't work directly for you. So a lot of management techniques that, let's face it, almost all managers use today are not going to work on these guys. You sign contractual agreements to pay them for doing said work, and depending on the level of work you're having done, the quality, the company, the job, the money, these contractual agreements can be pretty sticky. So threatening to terminate or fire a contractor can actually end up in a lot of legal issues, and you could end up losing if you don't make the right arrangements prior to the beginning of work. Next, we're going to talk about some of the security risks. Now, in addition to legal arrangements, as I said before, a couple of the more common ones are a non-disclosure agreement and a non-compete agreement. A non-disclosure agreement basically says that you aren't going to reveal any information or pass on any information that was given to you to work for them, any confidential information to a third party. A non-compete agreement says that you aren't going to engage in any work that's competing with your client's work within sometimes an area, a mile, a state. I mean, it just depends on how big of a contract it is. So the security documents that you need really have to be set in stone before you start this kind of job. Not having proper security documents in place is a giant security risk. Vendors also have to make sure that they're hiring the right type of people to deal with your confidential data on a day-to-day basis. The last thing we're going to talk about today is preparing the final generation. So with the amount of money that's being sent to outsource and the lack of jobs that's here, the next generation isn't being prepared properly for a lot of technical and other jobs that are being frequently outsourced. Now, this starts kind of a chain effect where We want to bring jobs back to the US, but we don't have qualified people, so we keep outsourcing them. Well, as long as you're outsourcing them, the focus isn't on training people here and preparing people while they're in college and high school for a lot of these jobs. So we're stuck outsourcing until the chain is broken somewhere and we start to focus more on preparing the next generation so that they aren't outsourcing, so that these jobs are being handled by Americans. Again, there are a lot of advantages to outsourcing, and I have had to outsource with several companies I've been with. But if at all possible, and I'm just going to say it, I'd rather keep the jobs here in America. Thank you.